Things I wish I knew earlier as a bow mechanic. I started working on bows like professionally when I was 11 and I'm 47. So that's 36 years, if I do the math correctly. And it's amazing how some of these things save you so much time. And in all fairness, a lot of the ways we adjust a bow today, you couldn't adjust a bow back then. That didn't exist. Number one, I would say that I wish I knew is moving the cam left to right is the correct way to tune a bow. A lot of bows didn't have any way to move the cam left to right. Now what you could do is they'd have like a yoke on either side. You could twist one side of the yoke and force the cam to a different angle. And basically all you're really doing is moving where the string starts from left to right in the plane of the bow by moving the cam back and forth. Now when you get that correctly, it sends the arrow straight down the center of the bow. It's the most optimal tune. It's the best way to do it. I wish I knew that sooner. I was always taught move the arrow rest left to right, and then if you're still getting a left to right tear, use a stiffer arrow, right? Which is not the right way to do it. But back in the day, you only had so many options in that regard. So I wish I knew that sooner. I wish I knew the appropriate process and order in which to assemble a bow, because there's a process of putting certain things on in certain orders that makes sense, right? In order to tune the bow, you have to have an arrow rest on it. So you put your arrow rest on first. In order to set the loop in the right spot, you got to have an arrow rest on it. So you put your arrow rest on, and then you put your loop on. Put your loop on, put your soft knots on, get your knock height where you want it to be, whether you're using levels and a level on your arrow to do that, or a T-square. Those are both fine ways. The level on your arrow is a little more precise, but if you're willing to move it, it's not that big of a deal. And then immediately tune the bow. Don't put the sight on, don't put the quiver on, don't pull the stabilizer on, any of that. Tune the bow. Go over to paper, fire it through paper, and see which way it is. Make your adjustments accordingly before you do all that other stuff. Save yourself some time. Especially if you end up running into a problem and have to change out the bows, you didn't do all those other things. Ideally, when you're timing the bow, you want to peep setting in the string, because it will actually change the timing just a little bit. Sounds weird, change the tune, change the timing just a little bit, but it does. So put a peep in the string. I wish I knew sooner how to identify people's grip issues. It took me a while to figure out what was causing left to right tears being different than my own. So back in the day, I would always paper tune a bow for a customer and hand it to them, and if they couldn't shoot it, I would say work on your form. But I couldn't identify what they were doing. And until I actually stood in front of a paper tuner and physically forced my hand left to right on the grip to see how it changed a paper tear, I could then help identify what a customer was doing to cause it. That is a huge time savings, because at the end of the day, now we'll tune a bow, we'll hand it to the customer, and then help them through getting it to shoot straight for them. And it's usually started off by, okay, yours is different than mine. Do you want me to try to help adjust you to where it looks like mine, or do you want me to try to change this to the way you're doing it? Because at the end of the day, if you can do it the same way every time, it's okay. So it can be both, but you got to pick one at some point. I wish I knew earlier to get the paper tuned close and just start shooting a broadhead in a field point. Now there's a whole bunch of people out there that are going to say shaft tune your bow, and I understand that, I do. And if I'm shooting target and I'm not hunting, I would shaft tune a bow. But if I know I'm going to hunt, and I know I'm going to use a broadhead, if I just get my paper tune close and hand me a broadhead and start shooting a broadhead in a field point, stop using the paper and start making the same adjustments based off of where your broadhead and your field point impact. It's about saving time to get to the final perfectly tuned bow. And in my world, a bow is perfectly tuned when your broadhead and your field point hit in the same spot out to like 60, 70 yards. Beyond that, there's a lot of variables that cause a difference that aren't about optimally tuned configurations. It's about drag. But up until then, you should be able to get those two to hit in the same spot. And to me, there should be more time and emphasis on that, less time and emphasis on paper tuning. Get the bow paper tuned first though, because if you don't, walk out there and shoot a broadhead and miss the whole target, it's going to be an expensive whoopsie. I wish I knew how much helical fletching made a difference sooner. Now granted, I learned that I think by 16, 17, but it was drastically amazing how much tighter grouping was on a bow when you went to a helical fletching. In order to shoot a helical fletching, or what I mean by that, if you don't know what that means, it's the twisting of the fletch. So the fletch isn't straight on the arrow, the front and the back are at an angle, and it makes the arrow spin. I wish I knew how much that improved the average archer's shooting ability. I.e., if you shoot like crap and make mistakes, a helical fletching recovers faster and gets closer to the middle of the target. We learned over time that like swapping a guy's setup off, put a fall away on there and putting a helical fletch on there, his grouping immediately got tighter. It was pretty impressive. So I can't emphasize that enough. Helical fletching makes a big difference and it's well worth the change. And I wish I knew sooner that when you actually started broadhead tuning your bow and making everything optimum for performance for hunting, that you always shot the bow with everything exactly that you were going to hunt with on it, i.e. a full quiver of arrows, because it will change your impact point a little bit downrange. And it took me several years to figure out what was going on, because I would frequently tune and work on my bows and practice with my bows without arrows in the quiver, and it threw everything off over the long haul. And that's actually where the offset bar design came from. As I was practicing with a loaded quiver, because I finally figured it made it impact different, but it made my bow shoot so much more uncomfortable. So I created that product to make that process a little more comfortable. I wish I knew sooner how important third access setting is. It's massively, massively, massively important if you ever encounter hills and shoot any kind of a distance. I had no idea how drastically off things were. I was always just left to right off at distance when I'd shoot up hills and downhills and didn't understand why. So the ability to get your third access set correctly and practice shooting your third access is monumentally important. People that are really good at archery will spend a ton of time shooting uphills and downhills angles in practice, because it is critical to accuracy in general. And I don't know about you, most of the time I'm hunting, I'm shooting at an angle, I'm not shooting on flat ground. It's not always, but it does happen quite a bit. It's a worthwhile thing. I wish I knew it sooner. Hopefully that'll save some time for you. I'm putting out content like this in an effort to encourage you to work on your own bow, because I believe it's super important for the long-term growth of the sport for everybody to be comfortable working on their own equipment. That includes you. Comment down below on if you work on your own bow or not, or what scares you to where you wouldn't want to, so I can see videos that I can get video ideas down there that will help me make content that'll make you less scared to work on your own bow. And then take that knowledge and go visit your local pro shop. Give them your business. Buy products from them. They need you. You need them in the long run to survive. It's a relationship that has to be cultivated. So please, please spend your money there. If you're going to buy it online, and only if you're going to buy it online, podiumarchery.com for all those archery needs. $99 and up is free shipping, and coupon code MFJJ will save you a little money. I really mean it. I want the comments down below on the things that make you nervous to work on your bow, or more advanced things that we missed, or how about the things that you wish you knew earlier to shave you some time in getting better at archery, so we can pass those along to the community and make everybody better quicker, so we can all grow as a community. Thanks for watching.
Money.